Yo, Ayo fam, what is good, y'all? It's your boy Raph, and I'm back with another video, man. In today's video, a lot of you guys have been asking, we are going to be going on a true in-depth tutorial on how to understand and use the KRM 262, and we're going to be focusing on a lot of mechanical things you need to understand step by step. I will be having a lot of timestamps in the description down below, and I do have a few shotgun drills that I do want to show to you guys that I personally used and I found success with practicing my shotgun. But yeah, anyways though, man, I hope you guys do enjoy this video. Make sure you guys drop a like down below. Once again, if you are somebody who doesn't have that greatest viewer retention, we do have timestamps down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for making the previous shotgun. It was specifically the double shotgun tutorial. That video did great, you know what I'm saying? So let me know if you guys want any tutorials in the comment section down below. Ask anything you guys do want, any questions, anything, drop it in the comment section. Let's go and hop to the tutorial, man. So hopping into our first loadout. Once again, I will be showing you guys a few more loadouts additionally to this one, but this one is my primary loadout. Obviously KRM 262, we do have two builds for you guys. One is pretty self-explanatory, the standard KRM build that everybody uses. The secondary build that I do have on the second loadout will be the more aggressive one. Sometimes I do like to switch between the red and the green laser with the KRM because I feel like when it comes to the KRM's hip fire, which is its strong suit, I feel like using the red or green laser is purely up to you. The only consequence to the green laser in comparison to the red laser is you do lose out on a very small amount of hip fire accuracy, which is not something that really concerns me personally. But what does concern me is the fact that your laser is visible. So I'm somebody who personally likes to pre-aim a lot, and I will tell you guys what I mean by that later on in the tutorial, but to each its own. MW11 is pretty simple. This is my standard MW11 build, and if I want to go for a more aggressive build, I would actually switch out the red for the green laser, but everything is pretty standard for the rest of the attachments. Okay, when it comes to the loadouts, me personally, I find most success with using smokes because I feel like KRM, alongside every shotgun's greatest kryptonite, is the fact that you don't have any versatility. You have to get up close and personal, and I feel like smoke grenades are kind of a way, if you know how to use them correctly, you can block off a line of sight, allowing you to gradually close the distance between you and your opponent, which is very important with shotguns. Frag grenades, Semtex, I personally like using Semtexes because they're very, they're pretty convenient. Just throw them, pretty simple, and they do a little bit more damage than a regular standard frag grenade, but both to each its own. Now, when it comes to the perks, this one's pretty important. I personally find the most success with using the lightweight perk. It just makes you move faster. Gun-ho is self-explanatory. I feel like gun-ho, if you're not using gun-ho, you're kind of, for the most part, defeating the purpose of trying to play aggressive, because this does do a lot more than just allowing you to reload and just do things while running. I will explain why this perk actually allows you to do a lot more movement. We'll explain that in another video sometime later. Blue perk, I balance back and forth between dead silence or survival training, depending on how many times I'm getting concussed, or just if I'm just getting tagged by a lot of tactical usages, I'll probably use survival training. Now, loading into the second loadout, this one's a little bit more different. As you guys can see, I added a lot more wild card and tactician stim shots, but we'll go through it step by step. The first thing, same thing as usual. In this build, I feel like using the green laser for playing more aggressive and more fast-paced is pretty necessary. We do have the melee in replacement of the pistol. Now, let me make this very clear. Whenever using both the J358 or the MW11, as long as you do not use a magazine and you do actually use the 45 compact barrel for both pistols, you will have the same mobility as a knife. But with that being said, I do feel like when you're playing hyper aggressive, I like to call it the placebo effect. You do think you move a lot more faster. So once again, placebo. I feel like spear is the best melee that you can use in this meta right now. If not spear, then probably prize fighters, but it's up to you. When it comes to the wild card, I find a lot of success with using perk greed, and I really like using the stim shot alongside with tactician. Tactician allows you to have two tacticals at the same time, and using stim shots, although they did get nerfed to the ground when it comes to your mobility buff, they still actually allow you to move a lot more faster than without them. But the most important thing of them all is actually the operator skill, misdirection device, aka true dead silence. When you operate with this, you basically, for about 20 seconds I believe, you are completely silent and you actually move a lot more faster than usual. I pair this up with gun-ho so that you can move around the map a lot more faster and just be very mobile. So this is a hyper aggressive loadout. I highly recommend you to use this loadout when you're a lot more advanced as a shotgun player. So the third loadout, this one's a little bit more different than usual. We went to the red laser instead of the green laser. The two key differences with this loadout from the previous one is instead of using gun-ho, we actually put on vulture. You can, technically speaking, you can go for both quick fix or vulture. Either of these two perks are good, But the main reason why I pair these two perks up with fast recovery is because fast recovery by default allows you to heal 35% faster rate than usual. This also means instead of healing at 20 HP per second, you heal at a rate of 35 HP per second. And it also cuts off your how much time it takes for you to heal from the usual 5 seconds to 3.5. But where I really like fast recovery the most is when you pair it up with either Vulture or Quick Fix. Basically all it does is with either Vulture or Quick Fix. The whole point of those two perks is when you either grab the Vulture pack from the ground, or if you get a kill with Quick Fix every 2 seconds, you instantly heal up. Quick Fix allows you to heal up at 20 HP instantly. Vulture allows you to instantly gain, I believe it is 50 HP. Now, if you pair this up with fast recovery, I do believe you gain more HP than usual. So this is a very, very overpowered loadout, a very underrated loadout. The only problem is you don't have gun house, so that's why I do have a pistol, to be honest, because once you run out of your last bullet with the KRM, you're stuck there reloading and you're pretty slow. So I highly recommend to pair this up with a pistol and not a melee. But yeah, anyways though, that's all we got as in terms of the loadouts. We're gonna go ahead and hop to the actual tutorial. Let's go ahead and move on to the next part of the video. Alright, so for the first part of the tutorial, we're going to be focusing on two things. First of all, finding your FOV and your FPP. Now, when it comes to your FOV and FPP, obviously I play on a tablet, so I play on 90 FOV with 100 FPP. Before I even go in depth with what numbers and values you should be using, let me explain the differences. So, obviously, camera FOV, your field of vision, your peripherals. Do understand that the higher your number is, the wider your peripheral will be. With this being said though, the lower the number is, the bigger the characters be. It's a trade-off, you know what I'm saying? Because when you play on a very low FOV, the actual peripherals become a lot more shorter than usual. Your distance and being aware of your surroundings, you know what I'm saying, is a lot more worse than usual. But the trade-off is your opponents actually appear a lot more bigger on your screen. Whereas if we were to go to a higher FOV, let's say 90 for example, boom, you can see the instant difference. The peripherals is a lot more better for you, but the consequence is the opponents appear a lot more smaller than usual. So what should you aim for FOV? I'll be honest, it really depends on your device. I personally feel like if you're on an iPad or a bigger than usual tablet, you know what I'm saying, I highly recommend you to go for anywhere between probably 75 to 90 FOV. If you are on a phone, I personally would go anywhere between 55 FOV to maximum 70 FOV. I feel like me personally, I found a lot of success with using 60 FOV. Now, this is a very important one. When it comes to FPP FOV, this is your gun. Your FPP by default, which is the standard, will be 50. What is FPP? Long story short, it is the distance in which your weapon appears on your screen. Now, a lot of people think this is purely just for a visual appearance, but let me tell you something. This setting is something that is very important when it comes to retaining crosshair placement. If you are a player who plays on sync FOV, this does not affect you except for snipers, okay? So if I were to reduce my FPP to 0 FPP, all right, my weapon will appear a lot more closer to my character, whereas vice versa, if I were to increase my FPP to 100, okay, my weapon will appear a lot more further than usual. If I go into my settings and turn off FOV sync, and if I go to 0 FPP for example, okay, we'll start off with 0 FPP. Pay attention to how the ADS animation works. Now, if you don't know already, when you don't play FOV sync, your ADS zooms in. Okay, now when you play with 0 FPP, because your weapon, and I'll make sure to maximize my camera for this. Imagine this is the weapon, okay, my phone right here. If my weapon is at 0 FPP, it's going to be to my chest. When you're ADSing, you zoom in, okay? If my weapon's at 0 FPP, my weapon's all the way over here, and it zooms in and it's synchronized with my character's zooming in fundamental. Now, if I played 100 FPP, my gun is all the way out here, which means if it's all the way out here and I ADS, while I am moving forward, my gun is moving backwards towards me. So why is this very important? If you play on a lower than usual FPP FOV, I use this on phone because I never played sync on phone. I noticed my crosshair placement was a lot more consistent than usual because the ability to just ADS and have your weapon be synchronized with your actual character zooming in just made it feel a lot more smoother than usual when it comes to having to ADS your weapon. Okay, also for some weapons, for example the VMP and for the Switchblade, your weapon actually disappears from your screen, but I just feel like when you play on a lower FPP FOV than usual, your weapon is more synchronized and it's more realistic. Okay, it feels more comfortable. So I personally feel like when you pair your FOV up with 0 FPP, I feel like it's personally better for me. I'm not saying you have to use 0 FPP, okay, but I will say start off with 0 FPP FOV and see what you feel is most comfortable for you. Because I play on tablet, I personally find more success with using 100 FPP, because when I ADS, there isn't really a zoom in factor, okay? But do keep in mind, when you do use 0 FPP FOV and use something for, like example, the Tundra, the weapon will appear a lot more closer to you than usual. This also means, to a certain extent, your ability to see some things are blocked because of how big the sniper is. But I do feel like it is pretty synchronized when you ADS, okay? But yeah, to each its own. That's what I personally do for FPP and FOV. Let's move on to the next part. Now, the second part of the video, we will be focusing on finding your comfortable sensitivity. Now, I personally feel like there is no perfect sensitivity. I feel like finding your perfect sensitivity comes down to you being consistent with practicing your sensitivity. I found success with doing this method. All I did was for my steering sensitivity, aka the hipfire sensitivity, I found a way to be able to do a 180-degree turn. So my rule of thumb is when I'm able to hipfire, I have to be able to, with one swipe, I'm able to do a 180-degree turn. So going from here to this red sign over here, that is basically a 180-degree turn. And then when it comes to your ADS sensitivity, we go from here and we're going to line up across there with the blue van at the back. This to this is basically a 90-degree turn, because I'm able to do a 90-degree turn ADS and a 180-degree turn comfortably with my steering sensitivity. I feel like for me personally, that is where I started off with finding my sensitivity. So yeah, just remember, once you found out where your comfortable FOV is, try to practice your sensitivity and find what is most comfortable for you. But yeah, once again, me personally, that's what I did to find my comfortable sensitivity and my comfortable FOV and FPP. Let's go on and move on to the next part of the video. Now, this one is pretty important and also a little bit different depending on players, okay? We're going to be focusing on how to understand how to cancel your spin to fire delay and finding a comfortable joystick. Me personally, I've tested both playing on a very low joystick, aka about 60 size, and I also played on, now I am playing on 95. But I feel like finding your comfortable joystick low-key depends on your thumb, okay, and how much you actually move your thumb on the screen. For example, right now I just reduced my joystick size from 95 to 60. I personally tried using 60 before, and paying attention to the actual analog, the ball of the joystick, which basically determines where you move and whatnot. I feel like playing on a smaller joystick, technically speaking, allows you to both sprint and cancel your sprint fire and have a faster motion of range. However, faster doesn't always guarantee your consistent ability to cancel your spin to fire. What actually allows you to cancel your spin to fire at a lot more consistent rate is not your joystick size, but your walk sensitivity. So as you can see, my walk sensitivity, I do play on 80 walk sense with a joystick size of 95, and this is the most important part, okay? The lower your value is, the easier it will be to trigger walking in general. I personally found myself being successful when combining a bigger than usual joystick, in this case 95, with a lower than usual walk sensitivity, allowed me to be able to effortlessly just cancel my sprint to fire. Going into the third part of the video, we're going to be discussing sprint to fire. Now, what is sprint to fire? Long story short, when you go from sprinting, or if you are in the sprinting motion, if you tap the shoot button, there's going to be delay. When it comes to having the ability to cancel your sprint to fire delay, before I go into the joystick fundamentals of it, I want to explain to you guys some movements you can do to temporarily disable the sprint to fire. Now, times in which you are temporarily disabling sprint to fire is either when you're just walking in general. If you are jump peeking somebody, because you are in the jumping motion, there is no delay with me wanting to tap the shoot button. Now, if I'm sliding and ADSing, or just ADSing in general, there is no sprint to fire delay. Now, if I'm just straight up sliding and I try to tap the shoot button, there is a little delay. The only way you can really cancel that, if you try to slide cancel and just try to blank scope when you're in the sliding motion like that. So my rule of thumb, what I like to follow, I try my best not to slide KRM, because the ADS moving bullet spread is really bad when you have Marauder. If you don't know what that looks like, I'll show you really quickly. Now we're gonna turn on this thing. It's called Scout Mode. It's a Red Magic plugin. Basically, if I'm standing still and tapping a shoot button, okay, that is my basic ADS bullet spread. Now, if I'm moving, meaning if I just move my joystick just a little bit, you see how much more wide the spread goes? Like, compare this to this. The spread becomes a lot more wider than usual. If you don't know anything about KRM, this is usually the same for most shotguns. When you ADS and shoot, 3 of your pellets, I believe, will stay on the crosshair. The rest are spread out. Now, the reason why I really recommend you guys not to ADS and shoot when you're in the range of motion, let's say for example slide peeking and shooting, or even jump peeking and fully ADSing and shooting, you are more likely to hit somebody for 75 damage instead of 100 because of the moving bullet spread penalty that the Marauder suppressor, as you can see right there, moving bullet spread accuracy. As in terms of using choke, you don't have this function with choke. However, choke just kills the movement with the KRM, so I do not recommend you to use choke, but I just rather recommend you to try your best not to ADS. If you're really tempted with ADSing, you could just blank scope, because when you're blank scoping, you're still technically in the hipfire animation. So what does this mean? Well, whenever you're trying to do a movement and you need a slide, because you slide and you shoot, there's a delay. How do we counter this? Slide and quick scope. Okay, slide and ADS. If you can as well, try your best to slide cancel, right? So go like this. Try to make your slide more smooth, because when you slide cancel, I'll show you one more time. If I slide and shoot, see how my crosshair goes up there instead of shooting there? Now if I slide cancel, my crosshair stays at a fixed position. Okay, so once again, if you're slide peeking somebody, try to slide cancel and blank scope, something like that. All right, it's much more better than just ADSing fully, because when you ADS, you are a lot more likely to get a hit marker than a one tap. Another way you can cancel the sprint to fire is by wall bouncing, because when you wall bounce, you cancel your slide. All right, and you just go to sprinting. Okay, so you can, technically speaking, cancel your sprint to fire delay if you wall bounce and you shoot. Pay attention to how much my crosshair jumps when I'm sliding, okay, which is why you want to like slide cancel and then wall bounce. But anyways though, these are some movements you can do to eliminate the sprint to fire factor, but the most important one of them all, which we're going to be discussing now, is your joystick. Okay, now when it comes to joystick control, everybody has a different feel and understanding of joystick, but I'll explain it for you guys really quickly. There's two types of shotgun players in this game. There's usually the players, which are for the most part the players who use a smaller than usual joystick, somewhere between 55 to 65 size, with a walk sense of maybe 85. I personally used to be one of those guys who use a smaller joystick, because technically speaking, on paper, with a smaller joystick, your range of motion is reduced. However, I personally am here to debunk that. When you play on a smaller joystick, the problem is your ability to control the range of motion, aka the ball, is limited because the joystick is smaller than usual. With a bigger joystick, the pros is your control and range of motion consistency is good. However, because you play on a bigger than usual joystick, it's a lot more harder to actually sprint. Now, with that being said, technically speaking, regardless of what your joystick size is, there are other ways where I like to usually cancel my sprint to fire. There's two additional ways where I like to cancel my sprint to fire. The standard one, obviously for me personally, is just going like this and pulling my joystick backwards. Pretty simple stuff, okay? However, I feel like when I cancel my sprint to fire, because my thumb goes like this, all right, I pull my thumb backward. It's not that comfortable for my thumb. Instead of going like this, bend my thumb inwards, aka what does that look like? It looks like this. So this is the other way I like to cancel my sprint fire delay, by running like this and then just going like this. I feel like when I do this, it's more flexible, it's more comfortable for me to cancel my sprint to fire delay. Now, the third way in which I like to cancel my sprint to fire delay, because I have a low walk sensitivity, instead of running at people and pulling your joystick backwards, I find sometimes there is a problem with doing that. You're increasing the distance from you to the opponent. If you don't know anything about shotguns, shotguns have poor consistency at further distances. I'm talking like 8 meters to about 10 meters. All right. So with that being said, the next time you're running at somebody, instead of pulling your joystick backwards and shooting at them, you'd ideally want to run at them and try your best to trigger the walk instead of actually canceling your sprint fire. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes I'll go like this and I'll still be at the range of motion. I'll be closing that gap, that distance between me and my opponent, which is good for shotgun consistency. And I'm also eliminating the sprint to fire factor. So once again, from the top, me personally, I recommend using a big joystick size. Start with 100. Find what's most comfortable and most flexible to you, okay? Walk sensitivity, I'd recommend anything from probably 75 to 85. Depends on how often you like to walk. Okay, so those are the two important factors that you must pay attention to. But once again, that's all I got for understanding the movements you can do to cancel your sprint to fire and actually understanding your joystick. Let's move on to the next part. All right, so the next part of the tutorial is something a little off topic that a lot of players, even myself, I find falling victim to this all the time. Focusing on your crosshair placement, not your flicks. If I haven't said this in the earlier parts of the video already, I do highly recommend you with shotguns, go to your settings, go to your custom layout, and just pick any button. I usually actually would probably use the sprinting man, but I can't find it. But I use, like, let's just take this button for example, and I'd reduce it to its smallest size, and I'd put it at the center part of the crosshair, okay? And that would basically kind of mimic and imitate an actual functioning crosshair. Now, why am I pointing out to practice your actual crosshair placement and not your flicks? It's pretty simple. Flicks build bad habits, okay? Let's say I want to kill this bot over here, and I don't see him until I'm actually turning the corner. Now, most players would have their crosshair placement over here, and then they'll try to like flick and do something like that. In general, just especially if you're in this situation where your crosshair is like really bad, this is what I like to call a major flick, okay? Major flicking is not good. Avoid that at all costs. If my crosshair, all right, let's say this person's right here and I'm turning this corner, I'm gonna gradually, as I turn the corner, I'm gonna turn my crosshair as well, so that when I appear to this person, this is a pretty easy to land flick, because the distance between my actual crosshair and the opponent is small. We call that a minor flick. However, if I'm like aiming here, by the time I turn the corner, not only do I have to take into account the time required for me to react to the opponent, I have to then flick. Even sometimes I might like maybe under flick, or I might over flick. So just make it easier for yourself. Be aware of the map's characteristics and surroundings. But yeah, I'll also show you guys one more time. Instead of like going like this and trying to like flick, you see even right there, I missed a flick. You can't always rely on flicking. Instead, try to make sure to maintain crosshair placement generally closer to the opponent. Because these types of flicks, where it's just like a really small flick, yes, you can get away with that pretty easily. Alright, going to the last part of the video, bro. We're going to be discussing one last thing, and it's going to be called shotgun drills. Now, I usually don't really do that many shotgun drills anymore because I have reached a certain level of skill to the point where I practice my shotgun skill by playing against other people rather than actually going in the training room. Okay, so if you are a beginner, I don't recommend you to turn off aim assist, but I will do this because I do like to sometimes come in the training room and turn off my aim assist to see how good my aim really is. Something I like to usually do is I would just turn on the bots onto just default. This is default bot settings. We're not focusing on actually shooting the opponents, but we are focusing on true tracking capabilities. So we want to turn off aim assist for this specifically. But yeah, once again, if you want to practice your tracking, okay, and if you want to get closer, if you get closer, it is a lot more harder, it's a lot more demanding for you to actually track. Okay, but you can get closer, you can have your distance and just normally just track. The whole point of this is to keep your crosshair on the head. Mind you, you don't have aim assist, which means this is all pure aim. This will test your abilities to consistently retain crosshair placement on the opponents. Okay, now realistically in a gunfight though, you don't actually want to aim for the head. You want to aim for probably the chest area. Okay, that is where your ability to have the one tap is at peak. Alright, so this leads to the second thing. Our second drill will just be some basic stuff. This is the second thing I like to do. Just try your best to comfortably have the ability to shoot at the center mass of your opponent. In this case, once again, is the stomach/chest area. You don't want to shoot at the legs. You don't want to shoot the head because those are very small hitboxes. You want to aim at center mass and try your best to reliably retain crosshair placement on your opponent. Now, moving on to the next shotgun drill I want to show you guys. This one is actually doing multiple things at once, so pay close attention, okay? There's three things I'm going to point out here. Number one, your finger calibration, okay? Having the ability to tap, to slide, jump, shoot. We're practicing tapping all these at a consistent rate, okay? And it'll basically help your muscle memory be built so that when you're going to an actual game, it's very easy to replicate stuff like this. So this is basically what the movement looks like, you know what I'm saying? And when you do it multiple times, you're practicing multiple things at once, which is understanding and building muscle memory and control with your joystick. The second thing is being able to constantly do, in this case, the dolphin jump. Alright, bunch of movements. Now, the third thing is having the ability to do all this at once while shooting the bots. Okay? Don't worry about your fatigue. You actually want to make so that your character has less fatigue, so that you're going to do very small slide jumps, okay? But I like to do this a lot when it comes to wanting to warming up my aim. Alright? And it'll look something like this. But anyways though, you can mix and match the way it looks. I do like to do that movement the most. That's my favorite shotgun drill because I can practice both when I do the movement, preparing my crosshair. Like I said earlier, so you can practice your minor flicks and you can also practice your crosshair placement consistency. The next one I want to teach you guys is something I like to personally do a lot. Now, it requires a wall, and in this case, this one. All you're doing is basically sliding into the wall, spamming strafe, and trying to shoot the bots while you're in this range of motion, okay? This might not seem like a lot, but this is actually the best movement you can spam inside of a realistic game because on your screen, basically, long story short, what a wall bounce is you're basically canceling the sliding animation on your POV. So as soon as I hit a wall, I immediately stand up. However, my character is still in the sliding motion. So on the opponent's POV, you can actually strafe your slide, which is stupendously broken. Okay, so this is the best movement you can do when it comes to shotgunning because it demands the least function when it comes to your fingers. All you gotta do is wall bounce and spam slide. Okay, and this is gonna look something like this. I really recommend you guys to do reps like this and try to turn your body around. If you want to do the other way around, go like this and just something like that. Try your best though to slide cancel with it as well, because when you slide cancel, your camera stays still, okay? Whereas if you don't slide cancel, your crosshair goes up like that. We don't want that. We want to really try our best to slide cancel, so then it looks really smooth. But yeah, that's all the drills I have for you guys today, you know what I'm saying? And that's all I got for you guys when it comes to the shotgun tutorial. But yeah, that's going to wrap up our shotgun tutorial video today. But once again though, I appreciate you guys so much for making it to the end of the video. I love you guys so much. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you are new, and we'll see you guys in the next video, man. Peace out, y'all.